Welcome to the Better Together Life podcast.
This is the podcast for the suburban family who wants to quit the rat race and return to the land.
Kelly is very excited that I can play that in real time and it works.
Yeah, out of the two of us, I'm the most excited.
I'm very excited.
Yes, you are.
Okay, so you just now said about like why are you looking like the proper farmer and why am I looking like business time?
Yeah, like I got overalls in the mail and I'm very happy about them. I might never take them off or just like might never wear anything but overalls. And I think that if no one has experienced this freedom, then
you got to talk into the mic. Whether you're looking at me or not, you still have to talk into the mic.
If you have not experienced the joy that is overalls, then you should get some because I think they're fantastic.
I want some, maybe not as girly as these. And your buttons are quite...
These are not child-friendly snaps. There's a twist. It's like if someone were like hiding a treasure and they needed a really strong treasure box that no one could break into, that's what these clasps on my overalls are.
So if you were just listening to the podcast and not watching the video, we're referring to Kelly's very fancy Carhartt overalls, and the clips, the main clips of the overalls are not the normal circle things. They're fancy.
They're fancy. You twist them. Yeah,
and we've griped about them quite often. For me, if you're not
I've
watching,
griped about them.
Like last night, you were like, I can't get these things off.
I said, you better not have to get these off if you got to go to the bathroom real fast. You need a minute.
So, and I'm not that fancy. I'm just wearing a long sleeve collared shirt, literally because all of my clothes are drenched in sweat. And that is gross because it lets you know that neither of us has done any laundry this week.
All week. Nope. We're running on fumes and one more pair of underwear.
Yeah. But that's why I'm out. We moved pigs and I'm done. I don't have any more clothes. It's time to dress up back into the suburban days of going to the coffee shops and looking.
He's going to be wearing jeans soon.
No. I don't ever wear jeans, not in the summertime. It's shorts and a long sleeve collared shirt. That was the look that I had then. We are going to be talking about how to survive your climate's extreme weather because that's what we have right now. We're surviving the heat of summer.
We're on our way to the heat of summer. We're in the warm up right now, and the heat of summer last year was 106 temp. And it felt like, 119? It was outrageous. And no one's excited about it. But we're ready for it.
We are. So we're going to be talking about breaking things down based off of your climate, infrastructure, water systems, shade, wind breaks, rotational grazing, automation, all of those things. But first... And now it's time for What's New on the Homestead. Okay, babe. So what is new on the homestead? I know what is new. I have two new things for me that's new in the homestead. Can you guess it?
And both of those things, I think I know what they are. Both of those things are right on point with being ready for the summer. My guesses for year two, because I don't want to just give my own. I think it's more fun to guess yours because why not turn it into a game, is the chicken summer home and moving the pigs into the forest.
You are one of two, so you're 50%. My first one is the pigs, for sure. My second is we have the tractor, babe. The tractor is here. The last time on the podcast, even on YouTube, we haven't announced that we had the tractor. Only Instagram knows that we have this tractor. And I like the tractor. You have not.
I haven't been on the tractor
You
yet.
have not taken a ride on my big orange tractor.
I feel like you need to bleep that out.
Or not.
So the tractor is like a puppy. You're paying a lot of attention to the tractor, and it's not a bad thing. It just reminds me of getting the puppy where you're like, oh, I need to use the tractor for that. Oh, I've got to run this back to the back with the tractor. Oh, I need to make sure that I do that brush today before it gets too hot with the tractor. I'm happy about the tractor, and you've been on it every day where we really have seen a difference.
Wait. So you're telling me that are you saying that you're starting to count the number of times that I am on the tractor?
I'm saying if you were going to have a mistress, this one's appropriate.
What?
I'm just saying you like her a lot.
It's $22,000. I would assume that you would want it.
You need to get
for me to get some hours on it.
There's nothing I've said that is complaining. I'm saying it's like when we had the dog for the first time, and it was a lot more attention than you thought it was going to be. I am very glad we have the tractor. You've gotten a lot done. You just
now said that I have a mistress. That is...
I'm just saying you really like the tractor.
You're saying that you don't like me being
I did not
down in the back of the
that.
property at 6:30 because when the kids start coming in at 6:45 or 7, you want me in the house so that they don't wake you up.
Or we just get them blackout curtains. That would be a lot easier.
Go for it.
Let's do that.
Deal.
Okay.
So then the
what
pigs.
What else about the pigs?
This morning. Oh, and I can edit in. If you're watching the video, then I can actually edit in some footage of this morning, literally this morning. So with our niece being here, Annie, so she came Tuesday afternoon. So she's been babysitting the kids Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and then she'll leave tomorrow. I think that we have really ramped up our productivity with her being here for sure. So we have been able to, it's beyond the fact that we've been able to get a lot more done. It's just, I think we know that we have to get more done. And so we are getting a lot more done.
So this whole spring was like our first focus on the homestead spring. We weren't going anywhere. We wanted to garden. We needed all the animals in the right places. So as soon as the weather got warm, and here that was like the end of February, we were running. And now it's almost the end of June and we're still running, but it's because we know summer's on our heels. So I feel like everything we have done has been really trying to get under the gun before it hits high heat. So I think we have been productive because we're more aware of losing the time before it gets too hot.
Yes. So Ollie typically does all of the animals. He feeds. That's his job. He likes doing it, and he wants to earn money, and that's his job. He started fussing because we got all of the birds from Ideal Poultry, and we were spread everywhere. It's beyond like spread thin. Like we were taking up half of the property, so much more than we've ever had. And so I think at one time we had 1, 2, 3, 4. I think we had 5, 7 different places.
Feeding spots.
Yes. So 7 different feeders, 7 different waterers. And at that time, I think we only had 3 cans for like food.
Everything was just disjointed. We didn't have enough scoops. We didn't have enough food bins. We, were getting the food delivered at one spot on the property. So it was just inefficient. Yeah.
And he was mad because he didn't have his electric 4-wheeler, which we still haven't gotten that fixed. But anyway, that is so all of that. Now we have moved the chickens. I know that you probably thought that was one of my
I thought for sure that was going to be one of your summer prep things, like updates.
It's good, but it's not as big of a deal as the tractor to me. But and the pigs, so basically we just had to get the pigs done. We had to. It was a mental block that I had that I could not get over, that the fact that they were going to escape because I have not trained them properly like we did the first pigs.
Or that they were just still unfinished. It was like getting to that last leg of your race. You can see the finish line up ahead of you. And our finish line was get the pigs on pasture. But everything else with this very high-paced spring meant that everything else popped up and was a little emergency, a tiny fire to put out. So we spend all the energy doing that. And then it's like, oh, the pigs will be fine. We'll just wait one more day for the pigs. And we had full intention. We got these pigs, I think in March. We had full intention to get them out the very next week. Mm-hmm. But then we had to train them to the fence. We had to make sure that the electric fence was good to go. And every little thing, gosh, 80 birds. I think that's how many birds we increased our flock by just in that time of getting these pigs and then getting them on pasture. So there are always little things that come up. And the good thing is you really can't do too much to screw it up as long as you're active every day at something on the homestead. Those dominoes will fall in the right places, but in between, you have to have some kind of order and priority.
And we didn't even mention this. The meat birds.
Oh gosh.
They're gone.
They're gone.
And the failure of that. We might have to do a whole nother podcast on that.
Yeah, our biggest mistakes in raising our meat birds.
Yeah, but not having the meat birds definitely freed us up.
The load.
Yes.
Well, not having the meat birds meant that we could play sort of a puzzle game and get some of the other chickens and poultry into their right places to simplify our summer.
Yeah. For how many birds we got, if we ever had to do that again, we need 3
tractors.
We need 3 tractors.
For sure.
Yeah.
Let's talk about what's growing in our garden.
This is all you. It's in the garden.
It's in the garden. The garden is my happy place. I am pleasantly surprised at how much I love the garden. And I know that seems like such a girly thing to say, like, I love my garden, but I really do. I don't know. You could probably do a whole episode on how Kelly decides not to be stubborn anymore and embrace different things as we go along homesteading, probably as we go along in life. But the truth is, the garden was frustrating when we first got it, because when we began planting things in the garden, then chickens would come in and they'd dig it up, and then dogs would run through, and children would come and pick things long before they were ready to be picked. And everything that just made the garden annoying was daily maintenance of just trying to keep something alive. So the garden's been a process for me, and it's one that I actually love. I want to go out and kill the squash bugs. I want to go out and make sure that the vines are growing inside the fence and not outside the fence. So the update in the garden is that we have fruiting plants, and that's a big deal. The tomatoes are actually warm enough like the weather's warm enough for the tomatoes to turn. So that's really cool. They weren't ripening. They were just kind of growing, and some of them weren't even fruiting. They were just flowering. So tomatoes, they're like set it and forget it, like Ron Popeil. These are good to go. And then the cucumbers, though, they're fruiting, and that's really exciting. And the watermelons are popping off.
They are huge.
So many watermelons growing right now.
2 or 3 big ones.
We have 3 big watermelons. They're probably all going to ripen at the same time, which is a little bit overwhelming. We grew these last year. They were awesome watermelons last year. So I'm counting on them to be good again this year. Our peppers are almost ripening, but they're a little bit tricky. We have had, I guess, update in the garden would definitely include, like, we have had some frustrations with peppers, just bell peppers. The jalapenos are looking great, but bell peppers are always getting this like thin skin, almost like something is eating it, but it's not like a hole. It's just sort of like a thin skin that looks a little bit burned. So that's not great in the garden right now. The loofah are taking off, and we finished all of the sugar snap peas. So we have some friends who live up north, and their sugar snap peas are just like producing like crazy. You know, it's still 75, max 80 there, and it gets really cold at night. And sugar snap peas are just pretty much done by May in Texas, at least in central Texas. And ours lasted a little bit longer. They had some aphids, and we were able to make a natural DIY spray for them. and that killed all of them. And we only had to do that twice. And then the kids were just snacking on those every single day. The octopus of the garden, still thriving. All my strawberries and their runners are just trucking along. I think this is the most exciting update for the garden. We took water from our 5,000 gallon rainwater harvesting tanks, and they come right off the house on the roof or from the roof. And then we have this really great pump that we could take water probably, I don't know, that might be like 40 yards.
Yeah.
I think it's about 40 yards from tank to tank. We ran a hose from the large tanks into the slim tank that we have right at the garden. So now we have rainwater to the garden, so free water. I mean, it's hard to calculate like the price per gallon, but as far as getting the system set up, this water is now free for us. Mm-hmm. So we ran it from the large tanks. It is better.
You can clearly see, I see a difference of beyond, I don't know. It's
the untreated water in the garden.
It keeps plants alive, but it kind of slowly kills them. I see like this.
Are you talking about the treated tank or the treated water from the city?
Treated water from the city. You can tell that the plants stay alive because they have that moisture, but they're just not something good about them versus the rainwater.
Yeah.
The rainwater, it's like they thank you for it.
Yes, that's such a good way. Your plants thank you for it. I do think that makes a huge difference. And I think the treated water is like a slow poison. It's not that what you're eating is poison. It's just that the plant is prohibited from absorbing all of the nutrients and producing the sugars in the same way it would with untreated water. So I think that our garden is really happy. We're installing a drip irrigation system. So that means a lot more systems are coming in place. And it's important to remember we're on year 3. In November, we'll have been living here for our 3-year anniversary. And that means that this takes a long time. Creating infrastructure. I think if you move onto a farm that's already established, you have a lot of these things in place, and that's super exciting because you can get to work faster. But it's also really important for a lot of us who are moving onto raw land to know that things take time. And if you want to do them right, the time is actually the gift. For us to have spent so much time living here and observing, just because we were playing outside or working outside or whatever it is, for us to have observed our property before we put some of these things in place has been the gift that keeps us from getting bit in the butt. Because a lot of the stuff that we would have put in that garden 2 years ago, the way we would have, created the beds or how we would have run the water through it, it just would have been a mess. It would have been harder work to maintain. And now that we've had time, the rainwater tank is in the exact perfect spot for that. It's even giving some extra shade to our garden bed. So we're able to plant some things that are just super intentional. We have one experiment going on right now in the garden that I don't know how it's going to play out, but Bo's from Houston. His parents live in the Pasadena area, and they, for the last 20 years at least, have had banana trees. And over the freeze, the banana trees obviously did not last. If you didn't know that we had this crazy snowmageddon in Texas, it was bananas. It makes no sense. It was just like the wildest throw of nature ever. And we had below freezing temperatures for a week in Houston. I don't know when that's ever happened before. So the banana trees at Bo's folks died back, but it's pretty much impossible to kill these things. They are the cockroaches of the garden, except you can eat them and they're delicious.
Well, we've gotten several banana trees and we tried to plant them outside of the garden, and I've killed all of them.
Yeah.
This one, I have planted them.
We made like a mini grove, and the intention of it is, okay, now we see this 2,000 square foot garden. What do we really need in here? We really need some space for shade. So they're going sort of like perpendicular to our entrance of our garden. And so if these work, if these banana trees
they're planted
work,
north and south.
yeah. So if they work, then we'll get afternoon shade on half of the garden. And the other half of the garden is shaded by the trees that are just the forest around it. So it could be a really, really cool experiment. So much has happened in the garden for updates since we last talked.
Now that I just thought about
Maybe
that
we need
crap.
a garden episode.
Shoot, if it is shading the afternoon shade, that means that the primary part of the garden, it's shading morning shade.
But I think that we can keep it low enough so that, because we only planted a few. So I really think we can trim and sort of, I don't want to hobble it, but we can keep maintenance over those trees in a very different way.
Sure.
Than our friends in the suburbs.
And we don't have like a lot of, this can be fodder trees for
No, this is
rabbits.
great.
It is a experiment for us to try to do it.
We're not trying to get them 20 foot tall.
All right. So real quick, tell me, so we know we're going to be doing the drip irrigation.
Yep.
Hopefully this coming up next week.
Mm-hmm.
What are you planting?
I'm planting ground cherries, tomatillos, some more tomatoes, more green beans, maybe another passion flower vine. I'm not sure. We want to make sure that we have some more plants growing for a very mini tea garden. This will not be a true tea garden, but just tea garden plants so that we can harvest them and put them right into tea. So those are things that I'm growing. And I think we've got, pumpkins. Pumpkins and okra. Those are the last two things that we're putting in the ground this month. Pumpkins and okra.
Okay, now we're talking about the main topic, which is extremely exciting, which I guess that's why I didn't want to say that's what was new on the homestead, is the summer garden. So tell us the overall plan of what we wanted to do for the property up in the front, using the tractor, using all the things that we have. Your original thought of the summer poultry home, and then you came up with this great idea that you were surprised that I never even thought of it, but literally my brain could not come up with this simple idea.
I think it's just because the pigs were taking up 80% of your brain space. So that's a really good point, that sometimes you just need to rip the Band-Aid on something that is silly and unimportant, but it will free your brain up. So our plan for all of these 7 spots that we were hitting and feeding and watering with all of our poultry, from the ducks to the chickens, the layers, the meat birds at that point, was exhausting, and it was getting hotter. And I think the anticipation of fearing our hottest part of the summer was just sort of crippling. The summer home is just the idea of our front part of our property, which is much more shotgun. It's longer than it is wide. In the front part, we ran pigs through last year. We actually had the city come and clear a bunch of it because they're going to put in high-speed internet. So that was sort of the motivation. Getting the tractor meant we could move a lot of things with much more ease. We could accomplish this goal faster. To fence in an area where all of our birds will go. So ducks, chickens. At that point, we thought meat birds might get there if we got this project done sooner. But we were putting everything up at the front of our property. And we would have one large sort of rectangle shaped area. So eventually we would quarter off that space and could move the chickens, still rotating them and, not burning out one part of the property, but it would be large enough for sure for the summer so that it makes our chores easier. And I don't know why I hadn't thought of that before, but it just made sense. Like, oh yeah, if we created a summer home for the chickens, then we don't have to work harder during this season. And it also doesn't marry us to that season. So we could still create a paddock. That paddock could be used for any animals during the year when we want to get birds in a different part of our property. It just made sense. And all of a sudden I felt like we kind of settled into the property, settled into our 7-acre homestead, where before it kind of felt like you were afraid to put nails in the walls and hang up your pictures. I feel like we're really ready, especially with a stinking tractor, really ready to like make a mark here. So that was a great idea. And it's still what's going to happen. However, getting the fencing in and racing the heat is just silly. Like it just seemed like too big of a project. It was going to cost a lot of money, and building supplies and everything is just kind of weird right now.
It's very expensive no matter what you want to build.
Yeah, anything you want to build is really expensive, and just also strange to try and do it at this point in the game because summer is only getting hotter.
And lumber prices are coming down.
Right. Which might be something where we just, continue to look for affordable lumber and then stash it off to the side. But the real option was pigs taking up brain space, summer getting hotter, chickens taking up brain space. And I think over the weekend, the kids were gone. So that was helpful. Didn't take up any brain space. Kids were gone and we were moving the chickens, or no, I think we were just doing chicken chores at the end of the day. And Bo had a question about, what did you say? Something about the ducks. And I was like, well, what if we just bring the electric fence right by the house and we put the chicken summer home temporarily here? How did you feel when I said, oh, what if we put the birds here next to the house? How did you feel? How much did you love me when I gave that suggestion?
No joke, very, very lightly, did not cry, but my eyes just kind of teared up just a moment of like, thank you.
Yes.
I never considered this because here's the thing. Once you said that, it became so clear of what we should do because I was even considering using the electric poultry netting because we bought 2 more strands from our neighbor who it just didn't work for them. They didn't like it. And so I had some extra stuff to be able to use. We were able to make because one of them, it kind of helps, but not like
You're
having
talking about
multiple.
One electric fence helps, but the space isn't quite large enough because it's made for rotation.
Correct.
So if you have one electric fence, you're really doing about a week's worth of work, and then you're going to move it again.
Exactly. And they can fly
Get out.
because of the fact that we use the chickshaw. So they jump up on the chickshaw and they're so close to it, they just want to fly out.
Houdini chickens.
Exactly. This is giant, the space. And we still have one more.
It's bigger than our house.
Yeah.
The chicken summer home is larger than our house.
Yeah. And these are chickens that have never been outside of the chicken netting, so they really aren't fully comfortable. If one of them gets out, they're like confused.
How do I get back in?
Yeah, and so we're able to do that. I now know that we need to start clipping their wings, which is totally fine. We can do that.
It's not that you now know. It's you're realizing, oh, this batch needs their wings clipped too. Because we've clipped wings before. And quite frankly, it's not always fixing the problem.
Yeah, it doesn't. So this is the thing of knowing your climate. So that's what you would have to know. That's our first like bullet point of this is knowing your climate. So we now know that basically from fall all the way until spring, one of our jobs is to prepare for the summer. So that is building infrastructure and getting all the automation. We just have to know that. Now, we did have some sort of freak winter with this storm. Hopefully that's not a consistent thing.
Right.
I wouldn't mind it snowing every year, but that freeze was a little bit nuts. I think we've learned a lot from there. We have a generator, so if for some of y'all, but that's the thing is just knowing your climate. So you have to know where you live, what your climate is like. For you guys that are up north, of course, it's very unlikely that you're going to have a couple of weeks summer of 120 degrees where your animals can't handle that.
You don't need misters for your chickens the way we might. Yeah,
for us, it is the summer. We don't, for most of the winter, besides this last freak Texas, freeze, we're not going to have that. We might have some freezing days, but it's really freezing nights, and then it comes back above freezing in the day. Like that's that was a very rare.
The danger was freezing nights and then not getting above freezing during the daytime. So that was what was so bizarre for us. Wasn't just like we have cold weather. We have snow on occasion, especially in Central Texas versus Houston, but we weren't quite ready for that. So our mind is always set for summer, always. Even when we lived in the suburbs, it was like, what are we going to do with our children during the summer? It's going to be so hot.
Exactly. So you have to know what your climate is. So then the next thing is,
I might interrupt with that too, because a lot of people who are listening are folks who haven't chosen their homestead yet, are asking us, what's the best state to settle in? Or, can you build a shed to house in the north? They'll ask a lot of things because they're still searching for their property. So if that's you and you're searching for your property, consider that too. There's a reason that there are snowbirds in the Northeast and they come down to Florida for the winter and then they go back up. So you might decide to do something like that. But when you're looking for a property, I know it would take some learning for us to move up north outside of the southern states, because Texas varies in climate throughout the state because we're so large. But to move somewhere like Montana would be not only just a move for us, that would be like a total foreign country as far as climate goes. So if you're still looking for your property and you have the freedom to choose anywhere, consider the climate, because that's going to affect how you homestead.
Yep. I don't know how to be able to advise of what state is best. I mean, to me,
I don't think one is best over the other. I really do think it is like, how are you wired? What's your experience? What's your grit? Do you know your grit? Because my grit is low. My grit is low. If I'm cold, I'm putting on layers. If I'm hot, I'm taking them off. Like my grit is low. I want to be comfortable. And maybe knowing how hot the summers are going to be is a comfort for me because it's predictable and it's something I can prepare for. But honestly, if I was having to shift between seasons, I don't know that we'd be so great at that.
No,
We don't have that cold of winter. We have a summer that lasts about 6 months. So that, I think that's fair to consider. We don't really have to do a lot of shifting. We've just got to prepare. There are some things we can't grow. There are some things that we've decided not to raise in the summer because of that. And knowing that we were going to have chickens this year, we adjusted our property to serve us and the chickens better.
Which is why we had the meat chickens in the spring.
Yep.
And it still got kind of hot whenever we processed them. But
because we had them longer than we thought we were going to have them.
I know. We'll talk about that on another podcast. But that was, then we're going to have some more in the fall. And the processing hopefully is a lot nicer because we're going into colder weather. So infrastructure. Infrastructure for us, we put them in a space that has 2 separate spots of shade. So that's in the summer, they need shade. If you're preparing for the winter, you're going to need to prepare for windbreaks and things like that. You're going to prepare for snow.
Insulating your chicken coop, that kind of thing. Yeah,
I guess there are people, Justin does the chickshaw in the winter. So it's you can do things like this, but even Justin, and we're talking about Justin just because everybody that follows homesteading knows him and knows his style, and he has a very unique style of farming. There's lots of people on YouTube that say this is why I don't farm like Justin Rhodes, because he does some unique things. So in the winter, you might want a standalone coop that they can get insulated. I mean, I don't even know if you need to insulate it, but at least like
some people do.
You might need to, yeah.
You might insulate it just with hay seasonally.
Yeah, you definitely would need to have some sort of,
deep bedding.
And some water heaters and stuff like that.
Yeah,
like
that's something we just don't even think twice about.
Well, I mean, we did this past winter, but for us, water systems is a big one because the summer they fly. It's really bizarre.
We drought. We don't have as much dew in the morning on the grass, that we are in a drought compared to other areas, even compared to Houston. Central Texas is much more arid than just 2 hours south. So Houston is kind of like a rainforest climate where it's humid every day. Some days we're humid, but I would say 50-50 even. We're just hot and dry.
Yeah. So in the fall and the spring, our little water systems, I only have to maybe fill up maybe like once every week.
Once a week.
But it's even maybe a little less than that. But it's once a week is a decent time. Maybe a little, I don't know. It's around about once a week. Now I'm doing it every other day. So I have to redo all the waters every other day. Yes. So for us, in terms of water systems, I am going to make a video on this, but there are two different kind of waterers that I've found pre-made, bought at Tractor Supply. I know that you can
DIY them.
You can.
We have.
I don't understand why, because the DIY versions of these, you're trying to repurpose something that is not made for what you're trying to do. When for us, these two different ones, the handles are so stout. They're more comfortable.
Sturdy.
They're meant to hang, 3 to 5 gallons of water. They're meant to hang the weight. Yeah, exactly. And so the hanging weight matters. I made a DIY automatic waterer for our rabbits, and I tried to hang it from the bucket, and within 2 days, the weight broke the metal handle and cracked if you think of a 5-gallon bucket, it's got you're not going to be able to visualize this on just audio, but it has the handle, and help me out, like the clips go into the bucket where the weight would hold that. So a constant weight just cracked those little plastic holes that the bucket handle would do. Yeah. It just wasn't strong enough. These two ones, they're full to the top every single day. Like the weight is good, and they're made
to water with ease. So we don't have to take the whole lid off. We don't have to turn anything upside down like the waterers where you're screwing in the bottom of it.
Yeah.
These are really intuitive waters. Somebody who farms must have designed these.
Well, I guess we have 3. Sorry, we don't just have 2. So we have 3. We have the normal ones that everybody sees is you water from the top, but it has that seal on it to where it has the bowl on the bottom, but you have to unscrew something to be able to fill it. So I don't like that one because it just gets so gunky and algae in the bottom of it. It's the one that's with the chickens in the netting. I forgot that
you could water that from the top.
Well, it's not an easy water from the top.
Because it's so gross in it. I never water from the top because I'm always cleaning out the bowl.
Yeah, it's horrible.
It's sort of like a bucket where you would screw on the top to the bucket. That's actually the bottom. It's like the basin where water comes out and the chickens can just dip their beaks in.
Oh, well, then we have that one too. Okay, so we have 4.
Such a mess.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Like I've tried so many water.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Yeah.
Chicken water is
so we have the one. Now I got that one. I got the one that waters from the bottom where you twist it, you flip it upside down, and you always waste water. It's hard. It falls over whenever you're doing it.
That's and then you have to tote it somewhere.
Yes, and it splashes everywhere. And then the chickens, kick dirt and stuff up into it. That one I don't like. But actually, Jess is the one who promotes that one. So
she likes it.
I know. So I got it.
I think that's a fair thing to know, that there are a lot of options out there. If you love a good DIY, do it. Nothing is prescriptive in homesteading except for some of the things about like the biology of your animals, what they can and cannot have. But as far as getting a job done, you do what you can with what you have, and every single homestead is different. Some of us don't even have water access on our property. So that means a whole different type of type of work. Or maybe you run a really large ranch and you have to tote water in because it's too expensive. It's prohibitive to run water to every part of your property. So there's just some things that it's really helpful to learn. We run a very small hobby farm homestead. Our homestead is just 7 acres, and we've basically pushed all our animals to an area where it is easy to get water. Eventually, we can run water toward the back of our property where we have a food forest, where hopefully we're gathering a whole nother layer or a whole nother area of water from a rainwater source. But we've made things really simple for us so that we can enjoy this and that it's not a labor of like regret. Like we really do enjoy coming up with solutions when, you know, we have to prepare for the weather or whatever it is that we need to adjust. So I think any homesteader that's worth its hide is going to act and do a thing and then learn from it and know that with great humility, we don't know everything. Even the people who've been doing it forever, they're still learning. They're still actively pursuing the best options, the most efficient ways of doing things and maintaining the ethic of what they're accomplishing. So like we want to steward our land well. So that's why we rotate, because it's better for our property.
Sure. I'm gonna finish the water system.
Go for it.
Yeah. So we got those two that we don't like. Then we got, because I love you.
Then you have two that you do.
I like, I'm so black and white. I'm like, wait, we got it. Like
because you want the answer.
Yes.
You just want, I just want to solve it and get it done.
Well,
but
and also
if you're doing it for the wrong reason, it doesn't matter if you solve it and get it done.
Exactly. Yeah, for sure. This is the thing for us. The reason talking about this is because of how hot it is and how often we have to do the waters. Then I bought the two from Tractor Supply, which one is, I think, like a 3-gallon bucket, and it has a lid on top, and then it has one little hole that you pop off this little rubber red thing.
Gasket.
So you can just put a water hose, or you can spray a jet, from the water gun hose straight in there. So really, really nice. You don't have to take anything off. It can stay hanging. And then underneath, how it does is it has the nipples. So this is for the chickens.
I'm never going to listen without laughing.
I know. Come on now. That is what it is. It's a chicken water nipple. And they like peck at it and water comes out. I didn't really like that because I just wanted them to have like a source of like flowing water, like a pool of water of something.
Describe it to us.
I'm trying to get through this. You keep on being funny. So then the other one is one to where the whole lid of the top flips up. Now this one, when we were talking about a stout handle, this thing is awesome. I dig it. I love it. And it's got a built-in hook. So you can hook it on the thing that you hang from a chicken tractor. So all of these, when you're hanging, you're not going to do it with a Joel Salatin style chicken tractor. You're going to do it with a John Siskovich chicken tractor that has a higher roof. And I like that now because you can hang, these waterers. So this one, the whole lid pops up. So I don't mind that either or. It doesn't matter to me really. But then it has the cups. So the chicken pecks.
Got some nipples and some cups.
Yeah, they peck in the little tonguey thingy-majigger, and it pulls up the water. Now, I always thought that they would just peck and always keep it full, but they kind of it's always dry. So evidently they're pecking to get water, but it's never like the thing. You're going to have to wait for the video, but I'll put links to each of these down below.
Such good description.
That's what I was saying. You're going to have to help me to describe these. They peck the cups. They peck the little yellow tonguey thingy in the cup to get the water out, and then they can drink the water, but they don't. They just peck the tonguey thingy to get the...
What you're saying is there's one water system you like, but it has sort of like the little trigger, kind of like your pigs have, where it's a pig nipple. These are chicken nipples. I can't even do this episode. So they push on it and it's like a little trigger and it lets water out. And then, and you like that's easy to fill, but that's not the one you want like forever for life. Then there's another one that's very similar, but when the water comes out, it's caught in this little red cup and you feel like it's like a little chicken. You feel like it's an upgrade. Like it's like a bougie chicken drinker and the chickens can get into it and you love that idea. It's like a little bird bath for them, but they don't care.
No,
they don't care.
The only thing I care is that they don't die.
That's
that they have
very fair.
So first, I don't want them to die because we've had that happen in the summer. The second thing is that I want them to have healthy, clean water because we are going to be eating byproducts of them, either their meat or their eggs. And the third is I don't want to have to clean it. Like I want it to be easy. I don't want to have to fill it so often, and I don't have to clean it all the time.
Can you see through both of these? Because one of them, I know you can see through. Can you see through the other one as well?
You actually can see through both of them. I wonder if the reason why there's not algae growth yet is because they're always in the shade.
In the shade. I agree with that. I think I shared something on our Instagram the other day about our slim rainwater tank by the garden. And that was the question, was like, how do you prevent algae? How do you keep it from growing? How do you keep it from being dangerous water? And the truth is, I mean, we're not trying to make potable water for our animals and our people. We're just trying to make potable water for our animals. And this, though, has shown us very different results than the waters that we were using previously, the ones that screw from the bottom and water just kind of pools in the red basin.
They're always disgusting and messy.
This makes it easy. It's really effective for the chickens. None of them have died in the heat so far, but we're also learning that last year, that time in the summer of where we ran them without as much tree shade as they have this year, it's just, I think we're going to have happier chickens. I think we're going to have productive chickens all through the summer. Our chickens molted last summer. So there was about, I don't know, 2 or 3 months where we didn't have any eggs from them. We're buying them from our very generous neighbors. And this summer, I think we're ready for the heat.
I think I just now realized one extra thing on this to get ready for the heat is if we put them, I mean, not if, we are putting them in this temporary summer spot, that when we get the John Siskovich chicken tractors in there, if we needed to, we could rig up some water hoses and some misters in there. I don't know how to do it, but we can do that. Easily. Okay. So the water was a big one. For us, that's the biggest deal. For you in northern climates and in the winter, you're really just going to need to be able to have heaters for your water so that they don't freeze. So that's the biggest thing. I would assume so. Water is a big one. Water is life. Everything needs water. So moving on, shade for us is big. That's why for us, we wanted to put them close in, like underneath a canopy, because what we've realized here is the higher you can get shade, the cooler it feels. So if you just put like a canopy, one of those, fold out canopies from,
Academy.
Yeah, exactly. It kind of helps. It's better than direct sunlight, but it's a lot better if you're standing underneath a giant, 30-foot tall oak.
Right. So trimming up some of those trees so that our chickens could get better access under that. And then obviously having them in a position where the afternoon shade, just like the garden, is more protected. I think that's been ideal.
Windbreaks. We don't have a lot of that, but we might have to deal with that because this is going to be the first time that we've had pigs. We didn't even talk about pig watering because I'm not an expert on pig watering yet. I'm not an expert on any of this yet, but I'm trying to figure out. We do have one automated rain barrel that I think it works, but they prefer to have the bowls of water. But you'll see them drinking out of it. I don't think I designed it best. I think you really need some sort of pressure. It's just the pressure isn't strong enough for these automated rain barrels. I think you can do them better than what I'm doing it, but I haven't figured that out yet. But anyway, windbreaks. This will be the first time that we've had breeder pigs that stay through our storm season of like hurricanes. The good thing is we
don't get hurricane season, but during hurricane season we may get tornadoes.
Correct.
So it does change a little, but I do think them being in the forest is shelter enough. A lot of pigs are just forest pigs. So they'll get tons of shelter in the forest, and it makes our job easier. We're not having to go out all day long to water them. We'll give them water in the morning, probably again in the afternoon, and then one more time in the evening. But we aren't going to have to fill up their wallows all day, every day.
And then rotational grazing. Mainly what I want to say about rotational grazing is just don't stress out about it. Like, for real, in your stressful climate, like in the extreme climates, just chill out.
I think
you don't need to.
You set the tone for your place. When you're in reaction mode, just chemically, your body is in a crazy ass storm. Like if you are in fight or flight or freeze mode, your cortisol is so high, and we'll get very little tech on this, but you are in this high adrenaline and it is taxing every single one of your body systems. You are no good to your farm or to your homestead if you don't chill out. If you don't find ways for you to recharge. We take a Sabbath every single Saturday where we're still getting the chores done, but that's it. We're not working on anything else. We're actually taking a day to just restore. It's so critical. And if you can't do a full Sabbath, what you must do is pay attention to your seasons. What is your most stressful season? What can you do to simplify during that season? If we didn't do that, your back, Bo's back, would be out every other week. It would take 1, maybe even 2 weeks to recover. And then we'd be right back into that. So we know your body. We know that your body holds physical stress when you have emotional or mental stress.
And you're saying you're specifically talking about
our family.
Okay.
Yeah. But the general is we know our bodies carry stress physically and emotionally. And so if you're worried that your livestock's going to die, your most important thing is to pay attention to simplifying that system. And if you're worried that all of this produce that you are going to use is going to burn up in the summer or is going to freeze in the winter, then that's where you really need to be spending your time in the off months of your stressful season. If your stressful season is summer, then all winter and fall, you need to be prepping for that most stressful time. And some things will be losses. That's just how it is on a homestead. But things can be more successful when in sober moments, when you're not stressed, when you're not over the top and every little thing will set you off. You can be a better steward of your land and of your animals, and especially of your family if you're doing this with a family unit like we are. We're no good to our kids if all we're doing is worried about whether the pigs and chickens are going to burn up in the summer. Like, we're terrible parents if that happens.
So I think we just now, last week, we decided, I decided in my brain, you probably did not even think of it. You were just trying to survive and to keep everybody happy. I was like, okay, I'm not. So we like to rotate our animals. Yeah. We're not going to do that in July, in June, July, and August. We're almost through June, right, but definitely July and August. So the chickens are going to stay in this spot for the next 2 months. We are going to heavily
expand their spot as well. Like, the size of their spot is much larger than what we would do on a weekly rotation.
Exactly. We're going to do heavy bedding. So we have a lot of wood chips. We have the tractor. We're going to put deep bedding there. For the pigs, yeah, the girls might be in this spot for the next 2 months. I don't know when we're going to take them to the processor yet. For Bill,
that just depends on their weight.
Exactly. We're just going to figure that out. So we might have to do another rotation for the pigs, but they can stay in here for at least another 4 to 6 weeks.
Absolutely.
It's a big spot. And we didn't have the boy pigs in there a lot. So there's a lot to be able to root up.
But that gives us 4 to 6 weeks of brain space to do whatever else we need to do. When you run multiple businesses, those things still have to have their plates spinning, whether it's spring on your homestead or not. Some things, again, maybe even in your business, some things will die. Like, you can't keep everything alive all of the time. But if we move them now, like we did today, and have 4 to 6 weeks to think about it, that gives us plenty of time to keep some other plates spinning and then go to that without burning out.
So to wrap it all up, you got to think about your climate. For us, it's the summer, and we're going to rest. We're going to slow down. We're going to hang out. We're going to watch movies in the air conditioning. For you up north, you're going to do that same thing. You're going to be able to chill out and by the fire. Like, that's,
I see the dream in your eyes as you describe that.
It would be really cool by the fire. You're going to do that. So just prepare and build your infrastructure and allow yourself to chill out in those extreme seasons of your weather.
The rules don't have to be hard and fast. Like, you went to this lifestyle because you want a life that you get to design the pace of. And if your pace is burning you out, you need to adjust.
So you can find us at Better Together Life on Instagram, or I'm Kelly at Better Together Wife on Instagram. You can also email us at bettertogetherlife@gmail.com, and we'll see you on the next podcast.